Hello, welcome to Bloodhaus, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I'm your host, Joshua Conkel.
Babadook. And I just came out of a living pop-up book. My name's Drusilla Adeline. Welcome to another week of Bloodhaus.
How are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I this is very early in the day, and we're starting this episode. And I am just realizing, because for listeners that don't know, we do this over a video feed, so we are able to look at each other. Only you plebeians only get to hear it from the audio track. But I can visibly tell which of the two of us, between Josh and I, are the villain of not just of the week, but of Bloodhaus in general, because one of us is drinking milk. And that would be
Ew,
me.
That's so psycho. That is like 80s dad territory. Like, what are you drinking milk for? I know that you're from Indianapolis, but you don't have to drink milk. Did anyone tell you you don't have to?
It's the morning. It's like 9 a.m. I'm starting my day. I've had some water. Anything else would be too hard. I want to start the day with some milk. I'm just gonna get out in front of it before it becomes a whole thing. I enjoy drinking milk, but I also love the go-to screenwriting device of sips a glass of milk. That's the villain.
It is a villainous thing to do. It's nasty. It's low down. It's retrograde. You're in the pocket of big milk.
I do have a milk mustache as discussing this. I'm asking if you've got any.
Listen, before we get started, I wanted to do a little corrections corner. Which I mean to do more often whenever we get emails like this. But this time I'm really going to do it because this person sent me such a kind and thoughtful email reading us to filth, but in a very kind and generous way. This person, I didn't ask to use their name, so I won't, but they are Finnish. And they sent us an email about our last episode, the Finnish film, The White Reindeer. Mentioned a couple of things that we missed that any Finn would recognize while watching the movie. And they were very complimentary about it. They said you did a great job, but here's some things that a Finnish person would automatically see when watching the movie, which is the movie is about the Sami or Sami people that live in the north of Finland. Reindeer herding is still their number one source of income there and their number one occupation and export. So the movie is not like a period piece necessarily in the way that we described. And in fact, the fact that the characters are living in houses points to kind of a timelessness, because traditionally they lived in tents that are similar to some of our indigenous people here in North America.
I was going to say on the episode that I didn't think it was much of a period piece because they had rifles.
Right. You did say that. Yeah. You did say that in the episode. I think I was the dummy who's like, who knows when this is set? Also, there is Christianity in the film. I said it was pre-Christianity. This person points out that the wedding that they have is a Christian wedding. I didn't recognize it as Christian. It seemed pagan to me because it's not like any Christian tradition of a wedding I've seen.
Most of the American and English language writing on this film does describe it as a pre-Christian film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people would recognize the kind of witch doctor character as a kind of rather racist stereotype of the Sami people. And also, this person helpfully points out that Rennie Harlin would definitely have seen this because it played on television in Finland constantly throughout the 80s when he was a child.
Called it.
Like a young person. So yes, you were right about that. But thank you to this person for sending this to us. It's very helpful. You know, this is not about our culture. We are just working off the American sources that are available to us. And we're also just two idiots with microphones who are speaking extemporaneously, not from a script. So we're bound to get things wrong.
And very much part of the reason we cover movies like this and that are from different cultures is that we can learn about them explicitly like this. And so we can open a dialogue with people from these countries, because there's not a lot written about that art and that culture here, at least within the context of these films. So it's really, really tough to learn about, even through what has already been compiled for home video releases out there. But I will say both of the English language home video releases don't have any input from people from Finland. They don't have any input on Finnish culture, which is, like, to me, a massive oversight. And that's what I want to connect with when watching a movie that is about, like, specific regional religious and folk traditions of a certain part of the world. That's why I want to be talking about these things, and that's why I want to be seeing these things, because it's cheaper than a plane ticket. And so hearing from listeners that have an experience is, like, the whole point. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a very generous, very kind email, and I'm really appreciative. That said, I've watched some cool stuff this week. I rewatched a movie that I saw as a child and always stuck with me. It's a movie that I feel like is very slept on, although somebody cool did try to remake it a few years ago. I'm trying to remember who. But this is a movie from the 70s starring Peter Fonda and Warren Oates, and it is Race with the Devil. Have you seen it?
I have. This is the second time it's been brought up in Bloodhaus, because I also brought it up like maybe a year ago when I watched it for the first time.
Oh, you did? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Race with the Devil fucking rules. I remember bringing it up because I was, like, in the middle of watching a lot of, like, 70s car movies, and I was like, this movie's great, and you were like, yeah, I've seen it. I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's great. It's like an early childhood movie that I saw. I love any movie where the characters go to the library to research witchcraft.
Yeah.
Love that trope. I love 70s movies about secret witches or Satanists. But basically, this movie is set in Texas. It is about two couples that are on a getaway in their RV, and they are camped for the night when across a river, they accidentally witness a satanic human sacrifice. And the Satanists see them seeing the sacrifice, and thus commences a race with the devil, you might say, across Texas, where this cult is chasing these two couples in their RV all across these small towns in Texas. So what you get is like a sort of Satanist cult horror movie in the style of like Rosemary's Baby, but you also get a 70s car chase movie.
Yeah.
And it is rad.
It's not as high octane as I would have thought based on, like, the posters and stuff like that. It's a lot more of, like, a paranoia thriller. There's a lot of, like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of tone to it.
Menacing old people reaction shots.
Yeah, where, like, you don't know who in these small towns they're drifting through that they can trust to tell about this stuff. Now, having done our episode on Deliverance, I think it would be...
Which does not star Warren Oates.
I think it would be a fascinating double feature with Deliverance. But also, I think it's interesting and something to talk about with you in your appreciation of both and either, as to the handling of the, like, oh, we're running into some rural characters in the middle of nowhere, and they're Satanists, they're murderers, and they all know each other. It feels like Race of the Devil is playing with that quote-unquote, like, redneck hillbilly stereotype, but then injecting it with, like, a very bizarre Satanist angle, which I think works. And I think one of the best things about the movie, which I've seen listed as a detriment, is it's very of the period ending, a very, like, Rosemary's Baby Italian Job kind of, like, well, ending.
Yeah. I think the ending is great. I love the ending.
I love the ending.
I also think, I mean, the movie's not a masterpiece like Rosemary's Baby is. It does try to have it both ways. So what I mean by that is the cult, like when they're witnessing the sacrifice, the cult is all young. So it seems to be talking about hippies. That seems to be the critique when you're watching the sacrifice. And then when they're on the road, a lot of them are like scary old people. And so it's kind of like trying to have it both ways. And so that aspect of it doesn't really work, because it's like they recognize these people, these old people. They're like, oh, they're in the cult. It's like, well, how did you know that? Because they weren't at that sacrifice. So I don't think that part is super successful, and I just don't care because it's all about the vibes and the aesthetic of the 70s. But to your question, I don't really mind in this movie because all the characters are Texans. It's sort of why I don't mind it in Texas Chainsaw Massacre either, which is considered like a hillbilly horror movie. It's because
it's hillbilly on hillbilly violence.
Yeah. Yes. All of the characters are Texans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would love to see Race with the Devil be remade.
Imagine a remake of this, but more high octane, like Death Proof or something.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
Very, very, very much so. But also, you could keep it contemporary. You could set it right now. Because I would. The idea of like hidden cults of Midwestern and Southern people across the United States that have sinister and homicidal intentions is like...
What are you suggesting, Drusilla?
Why would it be awkward?
I'm going to a family reunion in Eastern Kentucky soon, and I'm going there to see my mom, who longtime listeners will know is very sick, and so I'm trying to get as much time with her as I can. And she's really nervous about me going because all of the family is like Trump supporters and evangelical Christians. And so my mom is like fully prepared to go to war on my behalf. But like, aww. I don't know. It's just like a funny thing. So point taken. As much as I stand up for that part of the country, I also recognize its difficulties.
Yeah. I would love to see a remake of Race with the Devil, and I feel like between the two of us there is a screenplay raring to fucking go. If we could just get it away from Fox / Disney.
I know.
Or, just write it different enough.
It was somebody really good. I'm just going to Google it right now and see who it was. This one from 2005, this is from movieweb.com. According to The Hollywood Reporter, producer Chris Moore will make his directorial debut on Regency Enterprises' Race with the Devil, a remake of the 1975 horror thriller that is being updated by writers Drew McWeeny and Scott Swan. That never came out, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so no Race with the Devil remake is forthcoming.
Yeah, Drew McWeeny is mostly a film critic, and he wrote some episodes of the Masters of Horror TV series from the mid-2000s. Yeah, and Race with the Devil is no longer attached as being a coming soon thing.
Well, too bad. It'd be expensive. There is that. I mean, car chases are really expensive.
Yeah, but I feel like it would be really great to see it be done as an independent film. Like, think about the Sean Baker approach to a remake of this.
Yeah, I mean, think about Steven Spielberg's first movie, Duel.
Yeah.
How much did that cost? Nothing. Well, I mean, it was a different time. But...
Universal funded it to be a TV movie, but still, with barely any money.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, you could... I think we need to have some script meetings after this, off microphone, where people and lawyers can't hear us.
By the way, I'm sorry if you can hear the lawnmower behind me. I can't tell my across the street neighbors to stop mowing their lawn, unfortunately.
Once again,
doing a podcast.
I cannot.
Okay, but I'm telling the listeners. I don't know what they'll hear or not. What about you? Have you seen anything good?
Yeah, so listeners might know from the amount I've mentioned of late, but I've been on a kick of watching a lot of old film noir movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s lately. I can now reveal why. It's because I've been working on the Criterion release of Fritz Lang's 1953 seminal film noir movie, The Big Heat, which is now announced and it's out and you can pre-order it with my new artwork and my new illustration. Very, very, very proud of that. Very, very excited about that. But I started that job, obviously rewatching that movie, which I hadn't seen in years. And then I always do a lot of research into the projects that I do for them. So spent a long time listening to podcasts on Fritz Lang and on William P. McGivern, the writer, and stuff like that. And then it just got me back into wanting to watch a lot more of those movies, because they're in the same way that giallo movies are for me. And I've discussed like tenuous connections between them in the past, but just generally it's so repetitive of a genre while having so many different ways of moving within it that like they're kind of candy to me, and I can like I can just like pop one and be like, ooh, that was a tasty little morsel. I got what I wanted out of that, and it's 80 minutes and it's great, and I'll move on to the next one. And so like there's hundreds of old film noir movies. In the past couple months I read the Eddie Muller book, Dark Cities, which is all about film noir movies from that era. And the like big standout, I mostly like I'd seen a lot of those movies. I'd seen The Maltese Falcon and Double Indemnity and Leave Her to Heaven and Out of the Past and all of the main heavy hitters when I was in college and when I was in high school. And so now I didn't want to rewatch those. I wanted to start getting deeper and watching weirder, more esoteric ones, and harder to find ones. And this one technically isn't that weirder stuff. It should be considered one of the like baseline ones because it came out very early and cemented a lot of the tropes, but it just isn't discussed much anymore. And it's called Murder, My Sweet. And I just watched it for the first time, and it's incredible. It's based on a book by Raymond Chandler, who obviously, you know, also wrote The Big Sleep and The Long Goodbye, and created the character of Philip Marlowe, who is kind of very much like the seminal hard-boiled detective character. But this was made at RKO in 1944, just as a super cheapy detective movie. And with Dick Powell and Claire Trevor, and Dick Powell was mostly like a comic actor at the time. He was in like Preston Sturges movies and stuff like that, and like Busby Berkeley musicals. And him taking on the kind of like before Bogart taking on the like fedora and like hard boiled stuff is really different because there's a bit more of what Elliot Gould would then do with it in the 70s, or what Joaquin Phoenix did with that kind of thing in Inherent Vice. And it's a lot. It's still mean. It's still tough, but it's a little bit more ironic in his delivery of these lines. And the movie's just really evocative and really violent. And I really loved it. I really, really, really fell for it. And I didn't realize until probably midway through that I had already seen an adaptation of this before. It started to feel really, really, really similar. And I didn't realize why until I started looking up Raymond Chandler, and I realized that it had been adapted before, the year before, as one of the George Sanders Falcon movies that I'd been watching even earlier in the year.
Yeah.
As just like the third or fourth of those movies, they just took the novel and then rewrote it. So it had all the like narrative beats of like he gets hired by this guy who just left prison to find his old girlfriend, and that leads into a web of deception and all this stuff. And I was like, there's no way they're repeating this much stuff. And I looked it up, and literally RKO owned the rights to the book, and they had no interest in actually doing the book, but they just needed filler for a series of stuff for the character that they already had elsewhere.
That's so fun.
And then one of their directors, Edward Dmytryk, was like, no, that book is great. You should just do it straight up. And they're like, we don't have any interest, and we've already done it, so you can just do it on the cheap. Annoyingly, the original title of the book is Farewell, My Lovely. And turning that into Murder, My Sweet is such like a tangential move. Title-wise, both great titles, both meaningless. Murder, My Sweet feels a bit punchier than Farewell, My Lovely. Farewell, My Lovely feels a little like poetic, like it could be like the lyrics to like
Farewell to Arms, or
like an old Irish brogue or something like that. But Murder, My Sweet is a lot more like you're gonna get punched in the face.
It's trashier and more fun.
Yeah, I really loved it. I like so many of these movies, especially when I'm watching them like back to back, just flow into one another and just become a big melange of like chiaroscuro lighting and hot ladies deceiving people and people
Yeah.
taking one bullet and going, oh, and then falling over to the side, which is great.
Great stuff.
But this one really, really, really stood out, and it cut through, and maybe it's because of the kind of prototypical humor of it. Again, it reminded me of Shane Black movies a little bit, like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I really was struck by it and really, really, really loved it, and I think it works better than a lot of the stuff from that era, and it's a real shame that it doesn't get the flowers. I think when the majority of like film audiences that recategorized these movies as film noir in the 60s and 70s, and then the 90s audiences that rediscovered them have all been very like masculine of center and want like tough dude movies, and they want to see Humphrey Bogart be calm, cool, and collected, and then shoot the guy and slap the girl and not get anyone over on them. But like having like a well-threaded element of comedy, even dryly like this, is really, really helpful. And on top of that, it's got a very labyrinthian plot, but you can follow it and track it very easily. I don't know. I thought it was great. I think Murder My Sweet is very underrated. And a lot of the people involved in it were then blacklisted by the United States government like 10 years later.
It's so hard. When I was really into Bertolt Brecht in college, I didn't know before then, and I guess, I was really too young to know this, but like, it's easy to forget that I grew up with like with the word communist being like such a horror because of the Cold War. And like, I was born in Reagan's 80s, and I don't know, it's just like an unthinkable thing to be. And so it was a surprise to me when I became a young adult and started getting into Bertolt Brecht that like everybody cool and smart was a communist in America before a certain period. Like in the 20s, 30s, 40s, everybody was a communist, and it was the coolest thing to be.
Yeah. Bertolt Brecht was working in America. Bertolt Brecht made films with Fritz Lang in America.
Yeah.
They made a crazy like social commentary realist crime musical called You and Me that I think you would love.
Yeah, I want to see that.
It's extremely Brechtian. And Brecht was one of the people that HUAC tried to blacklist and put him on the like unfavorable list, and he literally left. He just left. He self-exiled himself back in Germany. He was like, fuck
wouldn't
this
you? I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Well, he was convinced that they were gonna like arrest him and like throw him.
He might have been right.
Yeah. I mean, screenwriters were arrested and did serve jail time for being unfriendly witnesses, like before Congress. That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Yes, in some ways you might say we are back there now, but
it's also weird how like not far away that was, and like it was the process of that like made Ronald Reagan become more conservative, because Ronald Reagan was the head of the Screen Actors Guild at the time, and he was being pressured by the members of the guild to stand up against it, but he kind of kept being like, I think I agree with that, but I think and so Reagan was working as an informant to the FBI as he was the head of the Screen Actors Guild, and was ratting out fellow members of the Screen Actors Guild to the FBI and naming names before anyone was even being asked to officially name names.
I feel like everything bad that has happened to America in my lifetime can be traced back to Ronald Reagan. Somehow. Like, really one of the most destructive forces in modern American history, easily. Like, no contest. Way worse than George W. Bush, even. Who
significantly.
Yeah. So
I feel like the Mount Rushmore of evil of America is Ronald Reagan and oh god, what's his name that finally just
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney, he might make it up there, but
Henry Kissinger. Yeah.
The architect of evil himself. The like evil didn't exist as evil was an abstract concept until Henry Kissinger came into the world and he said, "I have blueprints. I'm going to
Yeah.
build an evil machine." Yeah. I love the Mark
Awful
Maron
people.
quote of you can go visit Vietnam today and it's an absolutely gorgeous country, but you can still see the effects that American intervention had.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely just decimated so much part of that country and the lives of the people of that country. And his quote was, "You can go there and see that, and you'll never want to stop beating Henry Kissinger to death."
Although I've been told that Vietnamese people love Americans, which is bizarre. I think it's just because they hate China so much. But who knows?
Who's to say?
A Vietnamese person can write us and tell me that I'm wrong and why.
Well, I think also comparatively we're better than the French that colonized.
That's maybe what I was thinking of. I don't know. Well, listen, today we've got one of the stalwarts of art house horror. This arguably set the trend of quote unquote elevated horror in the 2010s, a term that is obnoxious. We are on record, even though we have a podcast about art house horror movies. This is a movie from 2014, written and directed by Jennifer Kent. It is The Babadook. Now, I picked this movie because we needed to cover it at some point. It is a big one. We've just done some really obscure ones, so it was time to do something a little bit bigger and more widely known. But also, I wanted to rewatch this because I saw it in the theater when it came out in 2014, and I didn't really like it that much. But it was a weird period in my time, a weird period in my life. I was married to somebody I hated. I was struggling with alcoholism. I was in a place I hated, New York City. And it was just a miserable time. And I was like, everyone loves this movie. It's time to rewatch it. I bet I would like it more now. And unfortunately, I did not. I found this movie like borderline unwatchable, tedious, flat, ugly, banal. I really, really disliked it. So if you're a Babadook super fan, I'm really sorry. Skip this episode if you want.
But if you're a Babadook super fan, you can stay on. I'm here.
Because
I'm here for you.
Really likes this movie.
I'm not a super fan. I will do what I can to defend it against.
Okay.
This is going to be yet another like Tekken match between Josh and I. This is gonna be Art House Horror Street Fighter episode 12 or whatever we're on of Josh and I disagree.
Not that many. There's not that many. There's like some famous ones. There's
I would be very interested to go back and find out how many we have like that.
I feel like off the top of my head, there's The Tenant and Baby Blood are like the really infamous ones, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, those are like the big like ooh ones. But
I don't want to make this one that. I'm trying not to.
I feel like there's more though. I mean, Funny Games.
We both just like funny games. Okay. I mean, I kind of stood up for it more. I mean, I think it's a good movie. I liked it, but
yeah, I think Santa Sangre is in.
Oh yeah, I like that movie a lot. Yeah.
There's a few others.
Well, here are my issues with this movie. First of all, I find it odd that this is credited with setting off elevated horror because the movie to me is very by the numbers, feels very commercial to me. It's sort of twee. It like using a small child feels very Hollywood. I find both of these characters intolerable to spend time with. And I'm not somebody who thinks that characters have to be likable in a traditional sense, but these characters are actively annoying to me. And I'm somebody who loves children. I would shake the shit out of this little boy. I would shake the shit out of him. I do not blame his mother for hating him so much. I would go fully mentally ill if he were my child as well. I find the aesthetic of this annoying. I find it annoying that they're a working class family who live in a house that would cost millions of dollars. The whole thing feels like a short film that's 2 hours long. And this is, in fact, based on a short film from 2005 called Monster, which I'm sure is great because this whole thing feels like it should be a short film. Where's the Babadook? When do we see him? Almost never. I find its treatment of mental illness really shallow and stupid. I think the ending is cheesy. I think the monster is cheesy. It's if this were like if it has the aesthetic of like a series of unfortunate events, but it's not a children's movie. And so I just don't really like very much about this movie at all. There's some good camera work. I think the acting is good. There are some parts that make me cackle because I'm evil, like when the little girl gets pushed out of the treehouse. And I also cackled when the little boy is like, I'm just a bit tired from the drugs mom has been giving me to the social workers. So I don't know. I'm really sleepy. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense, but you talk for a while. You like it more than I do.
I do. So, I mean, I should also say that like the marketing behind it in 2014 by IFC was incredible. They like did a really great job of getting this on screens. IFC in that era was doing such a great job getting eyes on independent and foreign films. They were did so much to get people to go see Frances Ha. They did so much to get people to go see Blue is the Warmest Color, for better or worse. But like they like I don't know who it was at IFC, and that not to say that IFC's fallen off since then. They haven't. They're still deeply incredible. Still like an amazing team over there that are putting out wonderful films. It's just at that point between the films they were licensing and the way they were marketing them, it was just like a kind of perfect synthesis.
I mean, so much so that like this movie premiered at Sundance and was an Australian movie, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do that well in Australia and became a hit in America because of IFC. So
like they really leaned into so many like fun elements of the marketing. It should also be noted that Essie Davis, the lead, is well known in Australia as being a more comedic actress. Mm-hmm. She's the star of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, the TV series in Australia, where she's like a 1930s dame who's solving a murder a week.
That sounds good.
Which is a great show. I highly
She's a great
recommend
actor.
It. She's
great actor. And she's great in this.
Incredible actress. And the performance she gives in this movie is amazing. So I could potentially see why an Australian audience would be like, why is Miss Fisher in a horror film? Why is Miss Fisher trying to kill her child?
Sure.
But for Americans, we didn't know her at the time. And they did a really good job of the marketing around the Babadook was like, this is one of the scariest films you can see. Which is also how they marketed Hereditary. And I don't think that marketing worked for me, but it got me to see the movie, so maybe it did.
Drusilla, Hereditary is 100 times better than this movie. I know you're not a fan, but Hereditary has what this movie wants.
This movie has what Hereditary wants. Sorry.
No. That's crazy.
No. I disagree. I think this is a lot more cohesive of a movie. I think the, as you called, twee aesthetics of this movie make sense and work because this movie is operating very much around the logic of a kid's fairy tale book, and that is very much the like driving thematic device of it. So leaning into that aesthetic, I think, works and helps. And but
the movie's not from that kid's point of view, it's from the mom's point of view, and so it just feels like it doesn't feel cool like a Guillermo del Toro movie. You know what I mean? It just feels like, what is this? What is this movie doing?
I think it's intentional, and I think there's very much getting at a disconnect in the lives of young and single parents where like your entire life is surrounded by your child. The media you consume is influenced by your children. It's almost as if you're having to take on a new level of adulthood and personhood and level of responsibility, while also to a certain degree being infantilized at the same time, because all of your the majority of your decisions feel like they're being made by your child. So I feel
Yeah.
like having her go through dealing with the grief of the death of her husband and this late postpartum depression almost, and this anxiety and anguish and these very weighty, mature, emotional themes, and then having them kind of warped and twisted through the lens of her kids' fairy tale books makes sense to me, because it's not like she can go read some Dostoevsky. It's not like she can go sit down and listen to, like BBC Radio 1 having a conversation about this kind of stuff, or like she can go watch an Ingmar Bergman movie and cry and feel connected to the characters and stuff. All she is, she's just stuck with her hellion of a child and reading bedtime stories to him. And so, of course, after a while, her brain would start to mesh the two. And they're two things that are so at odds with each other. Like, the way we sanitize things for children is all about ignoring and keeping kids away from that element of adulthood and of life and existence, and simplifying things down as much as possible. And so I think it's an interesting combination. I think it works like gangbusters. I think it's very thematic, and I think it's visually exciting.
I think the way that I felt at the time is still the way that I feel, which is that it feels like a horror movie for people who don't really see that many horror movies. And it feels like an art film for people who don't really see that many art films. It feels too easy. It feels like a Lisa Frank sticker of a dolphin. It's like using a cute kid and these aesthetics. You know what I mean? Like, to your earlier point, like if this movie were braver, a braver version of this, a more dangerous version of this would be more directly about a mom who doesn't want to be a mom and hates her kid. Like, that is a movie that to me is more interesting and brave and dangerous. This doesn't feel that way to me. And by the way, if you're a horror writer and you're thinking of like, oh, I know, the monster will be a personification of alcoholism or depression or suicide ideation. Like, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't. Maybe abstract it one step further. Like, it's not actually as uncommon and cool and new as you might think it is.
I will say that, yes, in 2025, I agree with you. And I do think it is a little ham-fisted in terms of writing. But I think this is the one movie where I kind of allow it to get away with that. Because first of all, it hadn't been done to fucking death at that point.
It's true. It is true. But I did feel all these things at the time too.
Yeah.
So like,
but
I was
will
feeling
also
it then.
say, in terms of like other more recent ones, and I'm not going to name names, but like the monster's depression. Oh my god. It separates you from your loved ones, and then it makes you do terrible things that you would never do in any other circumstance. It's depression. I get it. You also read the DSM-14. Oh my god. Like, I get it. But the like quote unquote like metaphor at the core of the Babadook is more complex than just, oh, it's depression. The concept of a mother's inherent desire to A, not be a mother, or B, murder her child is not A, common, not typical, and not something that's talked about that often in film medium. And so
yeah, but that's not what the movie's about. That's what I said I wish the movie was about. I don't think the movie's actually about that. I think it's about her depression is getting in the way of loving her child like she really does. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
I
not
think
how
what
I
you're
read
describing
it.
is a more brave, interesting version of the movie.
My read on it is, it's not that the Babadook is the metaphor for her depression. It's an inherent, like, that she is inherently mentally ill outside of the death of her husband and stuff like that. That has just brought this out, that she like does have a desire to kill her child, and she just has to like deal with that. And
Right.
that's what I don't think it's a happy sunshine ending. At
No, not
all.
at all. I mean, the
I think
point
it's
is clearly that like you can't ever get rid of your mental illness. You can only manage it. Like
yeah.
that's not a vague ending.
Yeah.
um,
But I have seen some people see the ending of it and being like, "Oh," because it is very like kind of the ending of Blue Velvet, where it's like like overwrought, like
right.
sunshine and stuff like that.
A
But
person who reads the ending that way, I don't think is that bright. Do you know what I mean? That's like not a very good interpretation.
I would agree with you. I don't know. I think it works, but also again, I think this is the movie in so many of the things that we're discussing. I think this is the one case that proves the rule. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That like this movie did it. It did it really well. I think it works. The one thing we also haven't mentioned about this movie is I think it's properly scary. I do think it's actually scary. I mean, granted, it's using darkness. It's using not showing the monster. It's using the kind of like quiet bang elements that like are straight out of the Steven Spielberg Jaws textbook, and also elements that are straight out of the James Wan Conjuring textbook a little bit.
Yeah.
And
but they work.
I think they're used really, really, really effectively. I think the scares in this movie are crazy effective. Both times I watched this movie, I watched it in pitch black. The first time I saw this was on a laptop in my bedroom, like when I was on a break in college, and I like turned off all the lights and closed the door, and then sat down on my bed and watched it on a laptop, and it is one of the most scared I've ever been when watching a movie. I was less scared on my rewatch for it, but it still got me. And I'm so desensitized to those kind of scares.
I feel the opposite of you. I get scared easily because I want to be scared and I like being scared. And I do think, the 2 times we see the Babadook are scary, or however many times it is. I think that those are really effective sequences, but that's why it was a great short film, I'm sure. Like I don't know. This movie really bugs me. And also, to be fair, people like some things and people don't like other things. And I tend to not like movies that are centered around precocious children, horror or otherwise. I don't like Beasts of the Southern Wild. I don't, there's like a lot of these movies of many different genres that I don't especially like, because I feel like when I watch this and I know that everyone loves it, I'm like, you fucking rubes. Like, they got you again. You know what I mean? It's like it goes back to the Lisa Frank dolphin sticker. Like, it's so easy to like. They're giving you something so easy. And I don't know. It just bugs me.
Are you saying that you think people that like this movie like the kid?
Not necessarily, because this kid is thoroughly unlikable, but everything that goes with this movie is like just so easy. The aesthetic of it, the fact that it's centered around a kid who's suffering, a mom and her son, like I don't know. It's just like, it feels like slop to me. And I feel like that's why I feel like it's a commercial. It doesn't feel arty. It feels commercial. Like, I feel like I can see the note cards on a writer's wall. It's too simplistic to me. It's too facile is a word that comes to mind. It's dealing with mental illness to me is like so shallow. And also, I'm not very charitable towards that subject after 10 years of people like narcissistically, centering themselves in every conversation, whether that be through mental health discussion or identity or whatever it is. But like, this movie's kind of tapping into that for me too. So I admit that this movie is operating on some particular things that I don't like generally. So that's
I will say, to your point about this movie's quote unquote credentials as an art film and things like that, is I agree with you. It should be noted that a lot of the ways that we discuss film as being quote unquote an art film or an art house movie, or what considers landing in that category, is based around financials and country of origin. So
if something
is
those
not,
terms are slippery.
Exactly. If something's not from America, and
It's an art film.
and exactly. But
yeah.
Shaun of the Dead was never considered an art film. It's very poppy
And
and
it
stuff like
should,
that.
actually. It should be. It's got an auteur point of view. It's got a specific voice.
It was released by Focus Features. It's imported over here, like all that stuff. And the Babadook it's an independent movie. It's, you know, it's a first film by Jennifer Kent. It's her first feature. But so because of the financials, because it's a first film from a quote unquote foreign female director, of course, like, Paramount didn't buy it up when it came to America. Of course that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Of course it was IFC that immediately ghettoized it into the art house category, and that meant you could only watch it that way. However, it's not an art house movie. It is a commercial movie, and there's always the like handful of movies, especially from foreign markets, especially from first-time filmmakers, that you can clock and watch and be like, that's a calling card movie. That's not an indie film. That's a calling card movie, and it's a different thing. Indie films, you're just trying to make an expression of an artistic statement, and that's the goal. Calling card movies are very much, you're also trying to tell a story, you're also trying to get a thing across, but you're also trying to get the attention of the larger filmmaking market that you're not a part of, and you're trying to like show off all your tricks and show that you can play in the big leagues on a small scale, so that you can then go direct bigger projects. And I think Lady Bird is a calling card movie. I think Christopher Nolan's Following is a calling card movie. This isn't bad. This isn't a derogatory term. I'm not trying to get on these movies or these filmmakers. I actually really like all of these movies a lot. I think Following is maybe Christopher Nolan's best movie, but that's a separate thing.
I don't know. But I do love Lady Bird.
But the Babadook falls more into that category. And I do think it's unfortunate that Jennifer Kent has only made one more feature in the now 11 years since the Babadook
which I
came
also
out.
Thought was like completely unwatchable.
The Nightingale.
I watched it like a month ago. I was like, oh god, this is unwatchable. So maybe I'm just not a fan.
I think it's unfortunate. I think it's a massive shame that despite, much like The Girl Who Walked Home Alone at Night, which came out the same year as this, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, that like these female filmmakers haven't been able to make a lot of work, despite the fact that their like breakthrough pieces are still large and celebrated. But okay, so that now is bringing me into like the main discussion of this movie and kind of why we are doing it to begin with, which is this being kind of the kickoff to quote unquote elevated horror and that shift and change. This came out in 2014, and I'm looking at a spreadsheet of the other horror films in 2014.
Okay.
And so mixed in here, we have Ouija, and we have fucking Dracula Untold, and The Taking of Deborah Logan, and Eli Roth's Clown, and Goodnight Mommy, and we have the first Annabelle, As Above, So Below. But also mixed in there, there's the What We Do in the Shadows feature that launched that.
Which I went to the premiere of, not to brag.
We also have, really? Oh my God.
Yeah, because I was married to a Kiwi.
Oh, and so
literally everyone who is from New Zealand in New York City was invited to that premiere.
That's awesome. And then also like early efforts from A24 before A24 was A24, Kevin Smith's Tusk and Life After Beth, the Aubrey Plaza film, which were like comedy takes on horror at the time. But then it's like a kind of a combination of like Goodnight Mommy, Unfriended, Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Creep, and then the two big hitters were Babadook and It Follows that year.
Yeah.
But it's also worth noting that the year before that, 2013, was like, that's when The Conjuring came out.
Mm-hmm.
That's when World War Z came out. That's when The Purge came out. That's like we got Oculus, that the Mike Flanagan movie. We got like the second Insidious movie, which is deeply transphobic. Um, and the first like Art the Clown like short film came out that year, and so
Yeah.
like horror was taking a turn in a certain like
It's a
very
transitional
commercial
time.
direction. But like Under the Skin was made in 2013. The Evil Dead
Mm-hmm.
remake was made in 2013. Park Chan-wook made Stoker in 2013. And so like things were shifting and happening
Yeah.
a little bit
It's transitional.
on the like indie IFC scale of things. Contracted came out. That Escape from Tomorrow movie was filmed at Disneyland and came out that year. The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, which I'm a massive fan of, came out that year. So things really started to kind of move in a direction. And 2014, you could kind of feel it in the waves in 2013, maybe a little bit. 2014 absolutely locked it in with It Follows in the Babadook,
Yeah.
and Creep and Girl Walks Home. And then by the time you hit the next year, you've
You
got
got
The
The
Witch
Witch.
and Green Room and The Invitation and The Blackcoat's Daughter and The Lure. And even more schlocky people are trying to do this. Eli Roth remakes Death Game as Knock Knock. On the indie side, there's stuff like The Hollow and Tales of Halloween and Hell
Rob
House
Zombie makes
LLC.
what's the Rob Zombie elevated horror movie, quote unquote, elevated Salem.
Lords of Salem. That was
What was
2012.
it? Was it? So he was ahead of the curve.
Yes, he was.
He was very ahead of the curve.
Yeah, Lords of Salem came out in 2012. That was the same year that the Maniac remake came out.
Which is so, yeah, I guess you can start to feel it in 2012. Here's what I have to say about this. So, like, if you go on Blue Sky or Twitter right now and look up the term elevated horror, you're going to find somebody who is today in 2025 dunking on the term elevated horror. So to me, it feels a little bit like a moral panic amongst horror fans because it's not a term that anybody has used. Like, I would challenge you to find a review or like an actual outlet using that term in 2025. I think it's been many, many, many years, and the term just upset people so much that they're still using it to clout chase. I'm a little sensitive about it because the term that those movies describes are my favorite horror movies, frankly. And so I think there's a little bit of a moral panic about it. And I will also say, I don't think anyone ever really used that term except for normie film critics who didn't like horror, which is the problem and the source of all of this angst, and also marketers for studios. And the one thing I'll say in defense of the term is that there's a whole period before this in the 2000s when horror movies in general were so violent and nauseating that it turned off normie audiences. And from a marketing perspective, studios needed a way to signal to audiences that it was safe to come see horror movies again. And that, do you know what I mean? Like,
very much so.
There was a shift. And so these movies have more mainstream appeal than something like Saw or Hostel does, or at least in the point of view of these marketers. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. I don't have data in front of me. And movies like Terrifier are doing super well. So maybe that's not even true. Maybe that's an assumption, but that's their perspective. And I have to say that was my perspective too. I kind of dropped out of horror because I hated all of the movies in the 2000s so much until the first signs that maybe we were coming back to me were like The Descent, which still has some of those torture porn aesthetics, but is like more thoughtful and smart, and House of the Devil. Those two movies at the end of the 2000s, I was like, ooh, maybe we're coming back around and I can start going again. So that's what I have to say about that subject. I feel like I just went on a rant, and I'm sorry. I'm very tired and caffeinated.
No, it's fine. But also, I think it's also worth noting that after the gore porn era of Hostel and Saw, which lasted for almost a decade, that when the first Conjuring came out, which now is the Conjuring cinematic universe,
Yes.
right? When the first Conjuring came out, it was being discussed as this is going to save horror. It was being discussed as an art film by film critics and by
And arguably
audiences.
it did, you know? I mean, those movies maybe did save horror. I don't know.
But from a box
I mean,
office
I don't think horror needs
perspective,
saving, but like,
exactly. From a box
yeah.
office perspective, yes, they did incredible numbers, and they kind of followed the trend of what Saw did of like, if it's October, it's Saw, where like you can always expect like audience will come out in droves to see the new like Shock Shock Bang movie. But the first Conjuring wasn't treated that way. The first Conjuring was talked about like this was an important film.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's a great commercial horror film, though.
Exactly. But I think that very much set up room for the Babadook and the Witch and stuff like that to then push it further into what people were saying The Conjuring was. These movies then did, and you know what? These movies and the Babadook especially, you took lessons from The Conjuring, abso-fucking-lutely, because that was working for audiences. It like objectively was. So of course you're gonna want to like lean on that language at least a little bit. And I think the majority of what we say are elevated horror movies from the era are a mix of that and also trying to get
Yeah.
away from that and embrace it at the same time.
I also think, you know, everything happens in cycles and horror movies are included in this. So, for instance, the reason Scream was such a revelation and a shock to, you know, movie studios and audiences in the 90s was because we had the schlock of the 80s. And I don't say that derogatorily. I love trashy 80s slasher movies, but in general, audiences were fatigued by them and turned off by them at a certain point. And so that's why Scream was such a huge moment, because it represented a shift. And then that got annoying. People got tired of meta movies. You know what I mean? We got 10 years of like irony and people got tired of that. So it's just like the cycles. And now we're post elevated horror, right? Now we're in this era of like more popcorn, fun, commercial kind of horror movies. So these things just always go back and forth in some way or another.
And looking at these like spreadsheets of like what came out in what year, 2022 and 2024 were incredible years for horror in recent memory. I mean, absolutely gobsmacked in the years in between. I like living in that year. I'm always like, oh, there's so many cool things to go see, blah 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 blah. And then now looking back and being like, no, 2022 was better than 2023. 2024 is better than 2023, better than 2021, better than 2020. Like getting The Substance, Nosferatu, Longlegs, Maxine, Heretic, Lisa Frankenstein, Abigail,
In a
First
Violent
Omen,
Nature.
Cuckoo, Trap, In a Violent, Immaculate, Presence, Oddity, all in the same year. And then
many of those could be described as like elevated horror or house horror.
Exactly. And in 2022, we got Nope and X and Pearl and Barbarian and Bones and All, and we got The Watcher, and we got Resurrection, and we got the original Speaking of Evil, and we got Crimes of the Future, and we got the remake of Hellraiser, and we got Men, and we got Ennismane. Crazy amount of good stuff.
Yeah.
It's it makes me happy to see that, like, despite the genres and changes and stuff, that like things are moving in a like, very positive direction for the genre.
Yeah, well, the genre is always alive and well in some way, right? Like even in the 2000s, there were great horror movies. It's not my favorite decade, and I trash it a lot, but there were great horror movies that came out in the 2000s. Of course. We're just talking in like broad generalities here. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit is like part of the reason that we started this podcast was around this term elevated horror. And, you know, we haven't really talked about this issue in a long time because we talked about it so much in the beginning, but that is an obnoxious term. I get it, but it doesn't mean you have to write off all horror movies that are a little bit more arty. There's lots of good stuff, and there can be a little bit of like a streak of anti-intellectualism within horror fandom,
Extremely so.
whereby someone will be like, The Witch is the most boring movie I've ever seen, but Terrifier 3 is incredible. And I've never seen Terrifier 3. It might be incredible, but it's like, you can like both of those things. It's fine to like both of those things. And you get these like, memes about, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe that horrible account, Joe Russo. I'll call him out because I can't stand him and he's blocked on all social media. But he'll like talk about going into the Criterion Closet and being like, I've never heard of any of these. And it's like, do you like movies?
Yeah. Or the joke of going into the Criterion Closet and being like, where's Saw? Where's the Flintstones?
Yeah.
Like, you're like,
in what world is a giant Marvel movie the good guy and a little independent art house movie the bad guy?
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing. It's like these people have made tiny little independent movies the man, quote unquote, somehow. And it's like, no, you've got that backwards. Marvel is the man.
It's the exact same logic that has conservatives being like, it's actually punk to be patriotic. And you're like,
exactly.
I want to fucking strangle you.
Exactly. That point of view is like, you think you're being punk rock, but you're actually being Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Like, that's the, like, an incuriosity, like taking pride in your ignorance is like a core conservative value. Mm-hmm. And so it just sucks. And I think it's lame. And yeah, it sucks. What else do you say about it? It sucks and it's lame.
I think flat out you should, especially if you want to be scared and if you want to like look at a more, morbid, macabre view of the world, you want to be enlightened. You want to see more about the world around you. You want to know more about human experience because you inherently being interested in horror movies, I think, gives a predilection for an interest in like what is beyond human experience and things that you don't have an exact one-to-one experience with. No one has been chased by a man in a mask with a chainsaw as often as it happens in these movies, but we watch it because we want to see that experience and we want to like understand and enjoy that towards perspective. And that's part of one of the reasons why horror as a genre, people go to it just for the genre alone, is so good at smuggling in other concepts and bringing them forward. And I think that's like, you got to take your medicine, right? You gotta take the pill. We're gonna smuggle it to you and some nice tasting yogurt with some blood on top. But like, it's really, really, really important to do that. And it opens up your eyes and you can see the world in a different way. And it's enriching to yourself as well. And it makes you want to go back and rewatch these things and experience them in a different way. It makes you want to go see more things from that filmmaker or more things in that way. Or from other perspectives, you get really into David Cronenberg and you get really into that. And then you watch David Cronenberg talk about Fellini and you go watch Fellini movies. Like,
it's the idea of connoisseurship, right? Like, how can you, I don't understand a person who claims to love horror movies, but then just spends their entire life only rewatching Friday the 13th movies, which were my introduction to horror and movies that I deeply love, right? How can you love something and not want to know more about it? Like, I have such a hunger to know more and more and more and more about horror. And that takes me to a lot of weird stuff, a lot of obscure stuff, a lot of stuff I don't like, frankly, but that's part of it, right? I heard somebody talk about, this was in regard to books, but I think it's true about movies as well, where it's like, if you love this medium, then you should seek out a bunch of different aspects of it. And it's good to have a mix of what they called like pleasure reading and growth reading.
Yes.
Like, this is for pleasure and this is to push my taste a little bit. You know what I mean? It's good to mix that up. And my taste has changed a lot over the years because I was constantly trying to push the limits of it and trying to seek out new things that I hadn't seen before.
And I'm always preaching this to friends because I have friends that are on the opposite spectrum of this. They're constantly pushing themselves. They're only pushing themselves. They're only trying to watch like stuff that's on the like Sight and Sound list and do all these things. And I'm always like, you need to be balancing that. You need to have your pleasure watch. You need to be able to watch A Fish Called Wanda and not like look for the themes in it. You need to be able to
Yeah.
just laugh at Kevin Kline. You need to be able
Yeah.
to put on Bob's Burgers and fucking like hang out and do that. I feel like for some people that grew up on the Friday the 13th movies, their like goal and their drive and trying to find new things to watch are not to further themselves, or not to be like, I liked that. What else can I like? What else is going to get me to the next connection, They're trying to go back. They're trying to like recapture that first feeling from their childhood or from the first time they felt that. Same thing. I feel like the same thing with like Disney adults and people that are really, 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 really into those like Beauty and the Beast and things like that. And I can understand the logic behind that, but it's inherently unhealthy. Like,
yeah, and I think I feel sad for that person that you're describing. I think you're right, but I feel sad for them because they're not going to get that by watching Friday the 13th again. The only way they're going to get that is by taking a chance on something like In a Violent Nature, or do you know what I mean? Like something that's similar but different. It's just always, you just have to, it has to be something different. You can't, lightning doesn't strike the same place twice.
It never does. And you have to accept that. But you have to also accept that like it's going to do something else. And there's other things inside of you that haven't been touched and sparked and found yet. Like we as human beings change and move over time. And that's the beauty of this existence.
But I mean, like, listen, I put on Friday the 13th part 2, and that is like being cuddled in a warm blanket, and I love it deeply. But when I saw that the first time, it scared the shit out of me, and I was a little kid at a slumber party. And so like the same feeling, I get a new good feeling from it, but not that original good feeling. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
But I still do get that original good feeling from other things. I still get, scared and excited like I'm about to go on a roller coaster. I just don't get it from that same old movie.
And that's fine. And that's good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's the point.
We've beaten you over the knuckles enough.
Yeah. Let's play our favorite game. Have they seen it? I forgot what movie we were even talking about, frankly. The game where we
The
speculate.
Witch,
right? This is a person that we talked about many episodes ago. She was the it girl for a second. Wonderful Australian actor who decided to not be an actor anymore. I always get her name wrong. Mia Wasikowska? Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Star of Crimson Peak and many other films.
And Stoker and Maps to the Stars. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think she saw this movie?
Oh, absolutely. I think you would be hard pressed. Okay.
I guess I put it out there and then you said yes. And I was like, I don't have anything to say about that, I guess. Great.
I mean, honestly, I feel like you'd be hard pressed to find someone, especially in the industry, and from the film's country of origin that didn't see this movie in 2014. I will say I feel like a lot of people haven't revisited this movie since 2014 as often as other things from that year, but I think she's seen it, and I think she enjoyed it thoroughly. I doubt you're gonna work with Guillermo del Toro and David Cronenberg and Park Chan-wook without having seen The Babadook.
I feel like none of those filmmakers that you just mentioned would like this movie, by the way. Also, I can't
Guillermo del Toro loves this movie. He's on record loving this movie.
Good for him. I can't believe we didn't talk about the Babadook as a gay icon.
Oh, yeah. Which
lots of memes about it.
Yeah, you know the origin of that, right?
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody searched for LGBT movies during Pride Month on Netflix, and the Babadook was included?
Kind of, sort of. So Netflix has like those rails of like genres and themes and like things. Yeah. And during Pride, it wasn't during Pride Month because it was before Pride Month, because it then a few months later became a thing during Pride Month. But they will it'll be like horror movies, comedy movies. I didn't read the book, just show me the movie. Like, it's always things like that. They'll come up with like kitschy little names for them, but it's like themes and genres so that there's different ways to curate things by a robot. And one of them is LGBTQ movies, and someone mislabeled the Babadook
So it was in the
So it was
carousel
in
with,
that
like,
carousel, and then everyone was like, "What the fuck is the Babadook doing the LGBTQ movies?" And then it immediately became a meme, and then immediately became, "Oh, the Babadook is a gay icon." And so then that year at Pride, a lot of people dressed up as the Babadook. The Babadook was seen on floats, and
yeah,
then there was like, you know, people in like drag and like like extreme high heel fetish boots doing the Babadook with fans and stuff like that. And then like a year or two later, because that wasn't in 2014, that was in like 2016 or 2017 that happened.
yeah.
A year or two after that, the It remake came out, and then everyone decided that that version of Pennywise was also a gay icon, and that he and the Babadook were dating.
I love all of that. That's like probably my favorite thing about the Babadook. But also there's like a really funny, I don't know if you'd call it a meme or if it was originally like a Facebook post, but it's like somebody's post on social media and they're like, that time I went to a Halloween party, but it was more of a adult wine sit down party. And it's a photo, like a flash photo of a person dressed as the Babadook in like a normal living room, surrounded just like by people in normal sweaters drinking glasses of wine. It's so funny to me.
That's incredible. I will say that it's one of the few like internet memes that like had real world like effects in a large way, like to the point that Shout Factory put out a Pride edition of the Blu-ray of the Babadook, because they put out a one that was like in a pop-up book kind of like slipcase. It was like red and it was textured. And then after that meme happened, which was after the Blu-ray was out, they put out a like website exclusive version where it was still that, but it was like Pride rainbow flag book cover.
I love it.
I was so tempted to get that at the time, and I didn't because I thought it would be kind of, I thought after a while I was like, no, that's stupid. But I think they go for a lot of money online now, which is insane.
I bet.
I'm sure.
Your turn.
Okay. So yeah, like I can guarantee that a lot of contemporary like masters of horror, like Guillermo del Toro and Mike Flanagan have all seen this and all speak very, very, very highly of it. But you suggested that David Cronenberg probably hasn't. I might agree with you. I don't know. I'm sure his son Brandon Cronenberg has seen it, but I'm thinking of other big like quote unquote masters of horror from that era.
Katie Cronenberg, whatever her name is.
He's got 3 kids and 2 of them are filmmakers, and that's fucking impressive.
Well, one of them is a filmmaker. The other made a movie.
Well, technically, all 3 of them have made movies.
Oh, okay.
But yes. Did you not like Humane then? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't see it. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not here for any of his kids. I've heard Infinity Pool is very good. I'm sure it is. I don't need to support the Cronenberg children.
I will say Antiviral is incredible.
I thought what was this movie called? Brandon's movie?
The second
Possessor?
one? Possessor, yeah.
I really disliked it, and that's the only one I've seen.
I also dislike Possessor. Ivory's a big fan of it. She really, really loves it. And she also really, really loves Infinity Pool. Infinity Pool is good.
I've heard it's good. I love Christopher Abbott.
Is still his like 1-1. Oh yeah, Christopher Abbott is in that. Yeah.
Such a dreamboat.
I did the German Blu-ray art for Possessor. Anyway, I was going to say John Carpenter. Do you think that John Carpenter has seen the Babadook?
No way. I don't think John Carpenter has seen much of anything.
He's seen recent basketball games.
He's seen the video games that he plays. He's seen a bag of weed on his coffee table. I think he's just smoking weed and playing video games, and I support it. I mean, he's so grumpy and so dismissive of like everything, and that's one of my favorite things about him.
Do you think in 2014, 2015, he would have slightly maybe had the stamina, less of the command?
Maybe
if like Joe Dante or Guillermo del Toro came over to his house and was like, "You need to see this." Do you think he would entertain it?
He might like this. Like, I think any earlier than this, he probably wouldn't like it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that he would love like The Witch or, you know, Robert Eggers' work.
Yeah.
But I think he would like this.
Yeah. I feel like when John Carpenter is at home, I feel like he is still watching movies, but he's not watching modern movies. I feel like he's watching Rio Bravo.
Yeah, I was going to say he watches old Westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, because he's like the biggest Howard Hawks fan in the world. I feel like that's what he's watching. He's watching Rio Bravo,
totally.
and he's watching His Girl Friday, and he is like, he's happy in his enclosure. Yeah. Dad movies are great. I love dad movies.
Yeah, you are famous for loving dad movies. So one of Kent's first jobs, apparently, was that she was a production assistant on the movie Dogville.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Awesome. That's awesome.
Do you think that her early on boss, Lars von Trier, saw the Babadook?
Oh my God.
And follow-up question, do you think that fellow Aussie Nicole Kidman, star of Dogville, saw Babadook? So it's a twofer.
Okay, then I will give you a rapid fire answer of no, yes.
No, yes. That's what I think.
Lars von Trier, I don't think so. Nicole Kidman, absolutely.
Yes, for sure. I agree.
Also,
not because she doesn't remember that Jennifer Kent worked on Dogville.
No,
because she was just a PA.
But she is like one of the loudest like supporters of female filmmakers, and I feel like she would very much be like, "Oh, new Australian female directed horror movie about motherhood. Sign me the fuck up."
I'm in.
Yeah. I think she loves this movie. Again, to my point, I'm shocked that we haven't gotten a Nicole Kidman starring Jennifer Kent directed movie.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing making Holland for the person that made that like stupid cannibal movie? Like,
I wonder if Jennifer Kent is in director jail because of The Nightingale not doing well.
No.
Or something. I don't know.
But also, like, it took her like over 5 years to make The Nightingale after Babadook. Like, that's crazy. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I hope she's not. I know she.
I hope not too.
She directed one of the kind of short films, even though almost all of them are almost feature length, for Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities a few years ago.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Alongside Anna Lily Amirpour and the director of Mandy.
Oh gosh, Greek name, right? But not Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah. Fuck me. Panos Cosmatos. Yes, Panos Cosmatos. Yeah, the son of the director of Tombstone. Yes, Panos also directed one. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Del Toro very much like handpicked like directors that were doing great at that time, but hadn't gotten work in a minute. For all of those, and I really loved those. I thought they were all great. I thought Panos's was the best one because what the fuck? And he got Peter Weller to just show up and do a bunch of drugs. I thought it was amazing. Speaking of people involved with this movie's prior careers, especially in the like early 2000s, Essie Davis was busy at the time. She also did a Nicole Kidman movie at the time. She was in the Baz Luhrmann directed Australia.
Oh.
Which is a white savior movie if I've ever seen one. But she was also in two movies that were shot back to back in Australia that are a part of a much larger franchise. She was in The Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions.
Oh, good for her.
Very good for her. And so you asked too, so I'm going to bring up too. Do you think that the directors of The Matrix, The Matrixes, The Matrix, Lana and Lily Wachowski have seen the Babadook?
I think so.
Yeah.
I bet they'd like it. I bet they'd appreciate its sense of style.
Yeah, I can see that. I can also see Lily Wachowski reposting a lot of like gay Babadook memes too.
Yeah.
I feel like they would dig this movie. And once again, to my like thing about calling card movies, Bound is a calling card movie.
Yeah.
Bound is one of my favorite movies ever made, is a calling card movie. It is like, it literally, they wrote The Matrix. They were told there's no way in hell we're letting you direct a multi-million-dollar like a thing at this scale. And they said, okay, we'll get a contract from Dino De Laurentiis to make something smaller, and then we'll prove to you that we can do The Matrix. Yeah. So Bound was literally reverse engineered to prove that they can make The Matrix, which like...
And make The Matrix, they did.
And they did, and it was incredible. And now we have Speed Racer and Cloud Atlas to thank for it. I love them. Love them. I'm sure they've both seen this, and I feel like they would absolutely love this movie. I want to just be a fly on the wall of watching like the Wachowskis and Jennifer Kent and Guillermo del Toro and John Carpenter all hang out and have a conversation. I want to know what that would be like without like cameras, so they're not like on, but like just being a fly on the wall so I can observe.
I think at least one of those people doesn't belong at that table.
I agree, and that's why it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's the Agatha Christie rule of throwing a good dinner party is one person shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
it creates friction.
Well, listen, if you love the Babadook, I'm sorry, I don't love it, and it's my show.
And if you dislike the Babadook, I'm sorry, and you and Josh can go text about it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Bloodhaus. Please rate it 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, unless you're mad at me, in which case wait until an episode you like better.
But at least give it 2.5 stars because I'm here on the other side of the coin. So like,
no, listen. If you're rating the show, give it 5 stars or don't bother.
Wait. How about this? If you agree with Josh, give it 5 stars and leave a comment in your review saying you agree with Josh. If you agree with me, leave a 5-star review and leave a comment saying that you agree with me and the Babadook rules.
There you go. You can email us at bloodhousepod@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Instagram. Drusilla, where can people follow you?
You can find me at sisterhidedesign.com. All of my art is up there, including my new work for The Big Heat. I'm extremely proud of that illustration. It is now only my 2nd illustration for the Criterion Collection, and my 11th cover, which is batshit bananas. By the time this episode comes out, my other recent Criterion cover, Prince of Broadway for Sean Baker, will be hitting shelves, so go pick that up, featuring photography by my partner Ivory Woods. And you can also follow me on Letterboxd to follow my film noir rewatch journey. If you look for Sister Hyde or Drusilla Adeline, you can see what I thought of Dead Reckoning and The Reckless Moment. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Sister Hyde. What about you, Josh? How are you popping out for people these days?
I'm at Joshua Conkel on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Instagram. We are watching another very popular, very well-loved art house horror movie next week, and this time it's one that I adore. What are we watching? We will be watching, as I'm checking my notes, but I'm pretty sure our only Best Picture winner. And maybe the only one we get to since The Substance lost out to Anora. No shade, but it did. No shade. We will be revisiting the iconic, beloved, and controversial 1990s horror and thriller masterpiece, an Academy Award-winning film from one of my favorite directors of all time, Jonathan Demme. We will be taking a listen to The Silence of the Lambs. Can't wait. She a great big fat person. Oh, wait. Bye.